Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for the Q&A, so let's go ahead and get this started. All right, first question. Can someone just do speed work if power is their only concern? Or would there be benefit to doing different things like max effort also? Can someone maximize hypertrophy with just speed work? Ooh, that's a lot of questions actually. Well, let's think about force production. Really, what are you talking about? Power, right? You're talking about rate of force production. Is speed work extremely useful for this? Yes, absolutely. Now, are you going to ask me, do I have my fighters do max work? Yes, they also do that. Not to say they couldn't benefit from doubling up on speed work, right? But we already get that every week. We already get that. And if we're talking about, again, force production, why wouldn't we still want to max out? What is a 1 rep max? Or we're maximizing our force. That still helps us with power development. Okay? That's why this system, the conjugate system, works so well in so many different sports. Right? It came out of powerlifting, but it's been adapted to the NFL, MMA, special forces, everything else, because it works for these things. I mean, you could do that in theory. You certainly could. I think you will get more out of having max effort days and dynamic effort days. This is my opinion, says me. That's my opinion. But that's who you're asking. You're asking me for my experienced and professional opinion. And I think you would be better doing both, even if your goal is for a sport where you're just trying to work on power. Okay? Now, could we maximize hypertrophy with just speed work? I'm going to say probably not. Probably not. Does speed work contribute to hypertrophy? Yes, absolutely. Can it be part of your overall training stimulus that contributes to your hypertrophy? Yes, of course it can. But we come back to this point of when we use these different training modalities, why are you trying to do 7 different things with the same training? Is this CrossFit? Are we trying to go back to, let's just do a bunch of heavy triples because we can get a good balance between hypertrophy and max? No. This is why we have these different things. Okay, it's not to say that there's not some carryover, but we need to train each attribute. That's the whole point of conjugate type training, is that we train each of the attributes that we need concurrently. So what does that mean for someone like me? That means I do max work every week. That means I do dynamic work every week. That means I do hypertrophy work every week for supplemental lifts, which is actually the largest amount of my training. And then I do conditioning work every week in the form of GPP. All 4 of them are rotated through the week and trained in the same weeks. It works. It works very well, and I recommend that you do it that way. All right, next question. Hey man, training neck muscles, do you consider it mostly the extensors that are weak or the flexors? Any exercises you like? I personally only train the back. I only do neck extensions personally, because that's the only ones that I feel matter potentially for my sport. Follow through on a deadlift, strengthening my neck to be able to handle a safety bar better. That's all I personally do. That's what I do. I'm not worried about training all the muscles of the neck directly. That all does get some training just from your lifting and your bulking and everything else. Your neck will get bigger to some extent. But I would say maximizing all of it, probably not a big deal unless you're going to be in a sport where you're going to get hit in the head. Right? Combat sports, contact sports, any sort of MMA, obviously, boxing, American football, rugby, probably a pretty good idea just to protect you from concussion. Outside of that, I don't think it's that really a big deal to worry about all of that. I do think doing neck extensions, though, just as an extension of your back, and because of some potential carry through and other things on your big lifts, I think can be useful. I personally do that. I only do about 5 or 6 sets total a week. I don't spend a lot of time on it. Like right now, I do sets of 15 reps with a 55-pound plate. Right, I use one of my 55s. I do sets of 15 with the harness. 5, 6 sets a week. That's all I do personally. But again, it comes down to specific needs. What specifically are you trying to accomplish? And I know I said this before that I'm worried about excessive neck hypertrophy and sleep apnea. I've had some people come in and say, well, that really isn't a concern. Maybe, maybe not. I've seen some data that it is a concern. Is it something I would be personally concerned with? Yeah. I'm not really wanting to take the risk, just like I'm cutting now because I started seeing some sleep apnea. I don't want to take the risk personally. It's not worth it to me. Even if people say, well, maybe it's not a risk, well, that's fine. I'm just not willing to take it. It's my personal choice. I see potential risk and no reason for me to do it. Other than, again, just that one plane of my neck. So this sort of stuff comes down to specifically, what are you trying to do? What do you need? What are your goals? What are your risks? And it's that simple. All right, next question. What is your opinion on Lou raises? I don't think they're any better or worse than any delt exercise. I think people have a really horrifically bad habit of when a champion in something, in this case the Lou raise, coming from a very prominent Chinese weightlifter who is vastly successful, champion in his own right, gets nothing but respect for that, right? Guy is absolutely elite at what he does. Okay, one of the best in the world, right? And no one can take that away from him. But people have a habit of when they do an exercise that they don't see a lot of other people doing it, they just choose to do. People kind of have that habit of saying, oh, it must be really special or magical because they do it. I can tell you right now that's not the key to his success, that if he just did some other form of lateral raise or whatever, his numbers would be just as good. He would be the same champion. Okay. Now, that being said, does it appear to be a pretty good exercise? Yeah, if you have the shoulder mobility to do it and you want to do it as a delt exercise, a lot of people are not going to have the overhead mobility to do this movement as well. He does because he has to for his sport. He would not be good at his sport. I'm not even talk about being a champion. He wouldn't even be good at his sport if he didn't have the mobility for it. It wouldn't even be acceptable. So he obviously does. All right, if you can do it and you want to do it in phases or whatever as a shoulder exercise, I don't see anything wrong with it. It's certainly a good exercise, right? It's a good exercise. Is it special or magical or bring anything really to the table? In other words, are you going to get better delt development or be a better champion because you do this specific lift? No. It's a good lift. It seems like a useful tool, and I don't see anything wrong with someone using it. By all means, if you enjoy it, you want to use it, go ahead. But I think if you're just trying to build your delts and upper traps, I think a regular lateral with a dumbbell or cable will do just as good of a job. Right? It's just my opinion. Depends on what you're trying to do. Maybe due to the overhead aspect to it, maybe there is a little bit of carryover specifically to the Olympic lifts. Maybe so. I don't know that there is. And there probably isn't. But there might be. But don't get caught up in this, that people do this all the time. Oh, this one champion uses this accessory, so it must be amazing. No, it's just another exercise they do. It's just an exercise, right? And I see this lift and don't say, hey, this is an amazing or a terrible exercise. It's like a useful tool, right? It'll get the job done. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 2.